Café and Networking Podcast promotes business owners, business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people from my unique communication lab in Brazil. And today we talk with Susan Murphy, joining us from Charlotte, North Carolina. Susan Murphy is a broadcast voice coach, public speaker, and has been in the broadcast industry for over 40 years, helping people find their authentic on-air voice, saying, elevate your voice and elevate your career. So Susan, why is it important for all of us to have an authentic voice?
Tom, I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm delighted to be here, and it's information I absolutely love to share. Without an authentic voice, you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the other people in your life. When you have an authentic voice, when you are speaking from authenticity, which in my world is speaking from your diaphragm, speaking from your gut, you tend to be happier. You are smarter. You are perceived as more competent. You are able to put facts together a little bit better. You are seen as a leader. You're seen as trustworthy to other people and also to yourself. If you're hiding behind an inauthentic voice, if you're creating a voice because this is what you think you need to sound like, when I work with anchors and reporters, many of them have it in their head what they're supposed to sound like,
Right.
as opposed to what they do sound like. So that's teaching that authenticity. I love to watch confidence blossom from that authentic voice.
So really what you're saying, that authentic voice is the way that you show your heart.
Yes. Well, I often say that we don't live in our head. We really don't even live in our heart. We live in our gut, which is where your diaphragm is. And I think brain and heart can be part of your gut. But I really think that's where our authentic selves live, if we give ourselves a chance to get there. And a lot of people, women especially, don't use an authentic voice. Sometimes that goes back to childhood.
Right.
It goes back to what they think men are looking for in that higher, wispy or raspy voice.
Right.
Men also sometimes have problems. They'll force their voice lower because to them that in their heads makes them sound more like a leader, more smarter.
Right.
And that's not really true. We can all pretty much figure out when you're being authentic and when you're not.
Well, years ago, and we're talking many years ago, really most voice coaches actually tried to come to a standard type voice.
Yes.
I remember in the States, they would talk the Midwestern English, right? And so for broadcasting, there were training programs to make everybody sort of sound the same.
That's exactly right. And that doesn't fly so much anymore because it's not authentic. Right. Now, you're going to talk regional accent. A very broad Southern accent might not play in a New England television station, but it's going to play very well in Alabama or Florida or Georgia. So back 15, 20, 30 years ago, you're right, accents weren't something you could have. Now, because it is part of your authentic self, and people identify in that region with people who speak like that, sure, I'm all for that. I don't change people. What I do is just help you uncover something that you might not even know you have.
Well, one of the things I found through my podcasting, that in the world, there are like 1,300,000,000 people who speak English, and most of them speak it as a second language. And what I have found, most people listen to podcasting to understand the different Englishes, to understand the different authenticities that you mentioned from everywhere. Because they're trying to learn in a global world today, English everywhere. Communication's everywhere. It's not only local. Obviously, it's important to be local. But we are being heard, and shortly we'll be heard on Mars, out on the moon, who knows where.
Very true. But I sometimes liken finding your authentic voice as learning a foreign language. Think about it. When you're trying to learn a language, your initial vocabulary is very basic.
Right.
And you're trying to express yourself, and it's frustrating because you don't have the right vocabulary yet.
Right.
But as you grow into that language, as you grow into that authentic voice, suddenly there is more confidence. You really know more about what you're speaking about, and you come across to, I don't care whether it's a viewer or a listener or a spouse or your team at work.
Right.
You just come across in a way that is connected. And it's, as you just pointed out, Tom, it's all about connectivity. It's all about connectedness.
And about having people wanting to hear and listen to you.
Sure. When you speak from authenticity, you're less likely to say or you're less likely to float unnecessary words around what you're trying to say. You become a more efficient presenter.
Good word. So that is part of your work, right? You help people go through all of that, and you help them adjust their authenticity level.
Sure, because they've not found it themselves. So it's new to them. And particularly for an anchor or a reporter, hearing that voice back in their own ears can sometimes be very surprising.
Right.
But again, they grow into it and they learn from that. And of course, what I also teach too is the writing component that goes with broadcasting. And if you're delivering a speech in front of a group of people, most of the time you should do it from notes. You shouldn't read it. But that's what anchors do. They're not only reading words,
right?
They're reading words that are moving in front of them, which is a whole other
another dimension.
Right. That's another dimension. Anchors have it really tough. So learning to put beautiful sentences together around a phrase or a thought or an idea comes from an authentic voice, because when you're speaking authentically, your brain is engaged. You're going to pause a little bit more. That's good for you, because then you can catch up with what you said and kind of in your head preview what you're going to say next.
Right.
But it's really good for your audience so that they can digest what you've just said.
Right.
If you're going a mile a minute, by minute 2, you've lost me.
I agree with you. Most people, and I can't think as fast as some people can speak.
Exactly. And we forget that.
But I can't take what they're saying and adjust to it.
Especially if you're giving them new information or detailed information. Wait a minute, slow it down.
Right.
I need to process this.
Right.
And that to some people is, they do? I do? Yes, you do. They do.
Well, Susan, I want to thank you. We're coming to the end of our time, but how can our audience find you?
And a couple of ways. I'm on LinkedIn. There are many Susan Murphys on LinkedIn, so just do Susan Murphy Voice Coach. And then my company is called VOSOT, VOSOT, which, by the way, is broadcast shorthand for voice over sound on tape, which is just a script that you would narrate, but you're not on camera, you're voice over sound on tape, better broadcast voices. So it's SusanMurphyVosot.com is where you can find me.
Very good. And what you're saying is about broadcasting, but I feel it's important for CEOs, business leaders, directors, because they're all, as many of them are following a script, a moving script when they're on stage. So that's a learning process in itself.
And that is automatic disconnection.
Well, we don't want to disconnect, but we need to because of the time. But thank you again for being here.
Okay. Oh, this was so much fun. I'll come back anytime.
Very well. Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tom.
And for our audience, it is Susan Murphy, SUSAN. The last name is MURPHY. Find her on LinkedIn and SusanMurphyVosot.com. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus Semi Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information on their site, FOCUSMI.com. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.